compassion fatigue. So I wrote an article on Friday that just came out, and it really was brought to my attention due to the fact that I have a day job that requires a lot, and I say a lot, of caring because of the individuals and the population that I work with. It requires a level of caring that I've never had to have in the past. Not having a certain capacity to have compassion is totally a bad thing, or that everyone has it. If you listen to our podcast on Valentine's Day with Cece St. James, you would have heard her talk about that idea, right? That we all have these dark parts within ourselves, and there are parts that we have to struggle with as we go through life, and we actually get better at not necessarily the struggle, but you do become more resilient, and you do have mechanisms and build a certain set of skills and tools to help you navigate those dark dots. I'm not saying that not having compassion is a sense of a negative thing. I just think that in the world we live in currently, we may lose our capacity to be compassionate, to care for the amount of people that we may have in our lives due to social media, which we actually talk about on that podcast as well, and I'll link that somewhere here. I received feedback about the way I show up to certain people, not everyone, to certain individuals. Now, my friends have said many things about the way I show up, and I'd like you to put yourself in my shoes for a moment, thinking of a young boy who grew up in a really harsh neighborhood where you had to have a sense of toughness. There had to be a sense of grit, because you just never know that you would get picked on, bullied in the streets when you were returning from home, which I've had that experience myself when I was growing up. Not only that, but I really never had a father figure really show me how to toughen up or be able to fight back if necessary, or any of that nature. You know, I did have a cousin who was in baseball, and I think because he has such a great group of guy friends. For instance, he had a father who was helping him train for that. He became strong because he had to go to the gym to make sure he was a catcher, so his legs had to be strong to be in that squat position for a whole entire inning, for instance, if you are familiar with baseball. And he was strong, so people didn't really mess with him. I was kind of a chubby, a little boy. I wasn't that tall. I'm only a 5'9" dude, so back then I was really short. No fighting technique. Didn't go to like karate classes like a lot of my other friends and family members, because we just didn't have the money to do that. So instead, I learned to be the master of running, and I can give you a quick example of that. In junior high school, I remember being chased down by a guy that wanted to fight me. I made a joke, and he really didn't like it, and basically hunted me down around my hour neighborhood for about 30 minutes before he gave up. And obviously I had to see him in school the next day, but luckily we had a mutual friend that kind of helped us squash that beef, as we used to say back in the day. And I only bring that up because it's just where I come from. I've had to have this sense of toughness and resilience built by my own accord to make sure I can survive in the situations that we're in. So as I've grown older and I follow people like Jocko Willink, David Goggins, I grew up around a family that sense of victim mentality, and this did not lead them to any success. And throughout my life, I just thought, like, complaining, play the victim, I never wanted to be that. I never wanted to be around people like that. During really tough times, that part of me still comes out. So obviously there's a sense of me unliking that sense of myself, and they always say, the world is a mirror reflection of you. So when I come into contact with a person that may be playing the victim game, or maybe complaining about something that they shouldn't waste time on, that sense comes back to me where I just dislike it so much that I become stone cold hard, and that may come off very very mean, as I was told. And And that's just a space, and I know I get to that space when I am overwhelmed with the amount of complaining that may be coming to me from my family, from even my partner, or from people at work. So when we go into all that, and in the article I talk about Dunbar's 150. So if you're not familiar, he was an evolutionary biologist, and I just have some notes here. But he was an anthropologist and an evolutionary biologist, Robin Dunbar. Him and his colleagues basically studied primates using their brain scans to show that the size of the brain, specifically the neocortex, was correlated to the size of the social group those folks were in. So they brought that information with primates and chimpanzees, brought them and decided to look at human civilization as well as historical references of humans. Throughout the historical, anthropological, and psychological data, bringing that all together, when we look at the state of humans, there's a consistent number, which is 150. This number is consistent amongst societies that have either collapsed or divided. And the reason why evolution is very slow, but our brains haven't caught up with what we've created in society. So with that comes a sense of like, I have a capacity to care deeply about 150 people, maybe even less for some people, because I do believe in bio-individuality. So maybe some people have the capacity to care for more, and there's probably some people that only have the capacity to care for much less. So I come from a very big family. My grandmother had 13 children, and all my uncles and aunts have had children themselves. So I have a lot of cousins. I have a lot of people whom come to mind often. Yes, I might not talk to them as often because the family's so big and we're kind of scattered all over the states. But it comes to a point where I do think about these people, and no matter what, they're still my family. Family comes first. If anything was to happen to them, even if we haven't spoken in 4 to 5 years, I will be there for them. So there's that sense of caring, plus the sense of caring I have for my immediate family, my sisters, my brothers, my mother, my father, my partner, right? So these people take the priority. Then there's my friends, and then there are the people I work with, and then everyone else. When it goes to that, by the time you get to 4 and 5, those people are not getting a lot of my time, one, and they're not really getting a lot of caring. They may seem I come off very cold, or I come off very just short, because it's just I only have so much capacity to caring. And this really comes up, especially if you work in a space that requires a sense of compassion. If you're in a nonprofit that does some amazing work, there's a sacrifice there. There's a sacrifice we must take. And something I've seen is a lot of people that I know that work for nonprofits wait much longer to have children than people that don't. There's a financial aspect there, but that's the case. From my personal experience. Just to close out here, because I know we're coming up to 10 minutes, and thank you for staying on this long, is I provided some ways to pass that, or ways that I've used, examples I've used to know, like when I'm self-aware, when I'm even aware of the way I'm showing up to somebody, to make sure I do have the capacity for caring. One of the parts that I made videos on this is about solitude, where I take the time for myself to go out and just explore the inner workings of me. And that's kind of fuel to help me be in service of others. That takes a sense of self-awareness, because you got to know when those moments do come up. So some things I talked about was a website, and it's called compassionfatigue.org, which is amazing that there's an organization out there really diving into this work. They have a book list, they have resources, they have a lot of things on there. So if this is something that's on your mind and you feel that you do come off this way, or you want to prevent it, because I'm a big fan of preventative medicine. That's a holistic life coach right there. I always talk about that. Like, what are ways that we can do now? How can we build your body and your system and your resilience now, so that in the future you do not have to suffer with these things, right? Of course, finding someone to talk to through these challenges of compassion fatigues, particularly in whatever space you're in. If you do work in an organization that requires a lot of compassion and you're having a hard time there, if you can find someone at work that you can talk through this with, I think it'll be very beneficial to you. Not only that, but taking a vacation, just taking some time away from everything, away from it all, and kind of stepping outside of the space that you are in day to day. Self-care routines, I talk about this all the time. I'm a person that's really into experimentation. So I got that rule book from Tim Ferriss, who has experimented with many things to find what works for him, and that's what I've done as well. I have certain techniques, and I've made videos on this, so I'm not going to get it too far into that. And obviously, a big thing is your diet and what you eat. Food is information. I've explained this in my What is a Holistic Health Coach when I go over my 4 pillars and things of that nature. Whatever you put in your body, the information will come out in how you show up emotionally and how resilient you are. You can literally build your resilience through the foods you eat. It takes time, and once again, it takes awareness, and that's why a coach is necessary here. Those are the tips that I had there, and I just wanted to provide you all that in video form. But please let me know how you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, comment below, subscribe to help these YouTube algorithms to get this message out to more and more people. I'll have the link to my blog article if you just want to read it. I do provide different stories on there to kind of help you, and also you can just copy and paste whatever the tools and the tips to help you on your journey and making sure you can prevent compassion fatigue. Start experimenting to see what can work for you to combat that when it comes up, as I am currently doing right now. So with that, I will close out this video here. Thank you so much for watching this far, and I hope that you have a pleasant rest of your day, and we'll see you next week. Peace.